All right, hello everybody. I'm Gary Stelly, and this is the first episode of what we hope to be a successful podcast known as Behind the Mic. And I am very happy to be able to welcome as my first guest Coach Cornel Thompson, former head coach of the West Orange Start Mustangs. Just came out with a new book, and Coach, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm above ground, so I'm doing great today. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, of course, the book came out and I think sold in pretty much a record time. How many copies did you get the first time out?
Well, the first time we ordered 450, but we only picked up like a 150, I think, and we sold 120 something of them. We got a few hardbacks left that we're saving for the family and stuff, and I'm fixing to pick up maybe 350 more Friday tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. And now that the book has come out, is there anything that you thought, oh man, I wish I'd have added that, or wish that maybe I didn't put that in? I mean, do you have thoughts about that?
Yes, and if we order another big batch of them, I can adjust it. The thing that I thought that I probably left out is our off-season records in the weight room. Off-season that I wanted to put, it had some athletes up there. I woke up this morning, as I do every morning, thinking about things I got to do. Yeah. It come to mind, and that was one of them, and I may go get those records and post those in the next book, and they said that'd be no problem. We just put it in the off-season part, and I'm sorry I didn't do that, but at this time now, I've had a couple of people call me and tell me that maybe this was wrong, and we researched it and they were wrong, because this is a research that I received and I had from my offensive staff, and it's not defensive records; it's primarily offensive records.
Right. So, well, and it's a tremendous book. I had just got through reading it, and I don't know about you, but when I read it as you're talking. You understand? I mean, that's the way I read it, and it reads good. It reads
well as I've read it, and I have flashbacks, and I think about exactly where I was and where I was standing in a situation during the game. I can't put it down. I'm proud of it, but I'm proud of the people that I've mentioned in there and the people I've been connected with. But I love reading it, and I read it 4 times, and that ties the number of books that I've read in my life, So even going to college to get my master's degree. But, no, I have flashbacks all the time.
You've done such a good job with the stories and everything in the book. When did you decide that you were going to do it?
I started writing this book in about 2003, 2004.
Okay.
I started writing a pure football book. It had to do with linebacker drills, defensive football book, and I guess we lost that part, those yellow pads that we had in the storm, because they was in my shop, and I'm afraid we lost them. But then I really got serious about when I started thinking about looking at retirement, because I want a legacy of West Orange Start football left behind. My greatest fear is people going to forget about me. And I had a guy, a publisher, ask me, why are you writing a book? And to make money? I said, no, I'm a coach. I've never made any money, but I want to leave the legacy, and the coaches and the people that went through the program, I want to leave a legacy of that behind.
Well, you talked about making money, something else that you're doing on the side. You got and you're wearing the hat, Thompson Longhorns, and I think you just had one before. Had a calf here before you got up here.
Yeah, as I was driving out of the land a while ago, I looked, and I've been waiting on the cow to have a calf for about a week, and she finally had it. Of course, they'll have it when they get ready to have it, but looks like maybe a little heifer. I'm going to name her Cruella, so she's black and white, so pretty little calf, so I'm thrilled about that. So me and Miss Francis and I are grandparents again. So.
Yeah. And why the Longhorn business? How'd that start?
Always been fascinated with the Longhorn breed. When I was a little boy, my grandfather passed away, and in Louisiana, and we was up there with the uncles trying to get all the herd together. We sold them to some guys in Lake Charles, Louisiana, but there was a Longhorn steer with them, and that's my first fascination with the Longhorn breed. And of course, Edgar Brown used to have them on the corner of 105 and 87, and he had 13 head, and I didn't know that because I read everything about the Longhorn breed, and Longhorns in this part of the country started in the Dayton, Liberty, South Houston area. So I've always been fascinated with them. Yeah.
And you do pretty well with them?
If I can break even.
Yeah.
No, we raise them and sell the meat, and I auction them off and stuff. So, it's just a hobby, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah.
So every pair of Wranglers and Wrangler shirt I got tears in them because I'm not giving enough room into trough to when I feed them. So the Longhorns, you got to give them some space now. So
you still have your aluminum boat in case you have to feed them after a hurricane?
I still have it. It got upside down over there, and I got it over the trees in there. But I have fed them a couple of occasions out of that boat when the water was waist deep. So yeah,
which is in the book, folks. If you haven't had a chance to grab you one yet. One of the other interesting things, and of course there's so much in the book to talk about, but you name every single coach that you ever coached with, which I'm fascinated of how you were able to keep that list up over the years.
Well, I hope I did. I hope I didn't forget anybody. But I called Coach Foreman when we were together at Palestine, went over the list, and we were together at Huntsville and went over the list, and he said, I think that's about it. And all the coaches that we've had at West Orange Stark off for rosters and stuff. So, I wanted to name every one of them that we were able to work with when I was just an assistant or just a defensive coordinator. And, of course, head coach. So I wanted to name every one of them in the book, and I was proud of that part of it.
Yeah, I think that was really cool. And I noticed that you worked with my old coach, Ed Pivotal. You got an Ed Pivotal story?
Oh, I got
you can tell?
I got that's what I figured to say. I got a couple of them. But anyway, Ed and I worked together when we was at Stark High School before he got the Orange Field job. And, of course, Ed was pretty dominant when he come to talking football and stuff. You never get a word in edgewise, but no, there's a lot of stories I could tell about Ed. Maybe too long for me to tell here, but I've known his sons. I knew all of his sons. Bradley Dale, I called Bradley Dale the other night, who is now at Texas State, and he just lost his mother, Natalie, that passed away. So, and I talked to him, but no, Ed and I had a good time together when we was at Stark High together. So.
Always heard stories about it. People always wanted to challenge him in arm wrestling, and he made money on the side of arm wrestling.
That's exactly what you didn't want to do. He'd slam your knuckles on the ground there. So, so Eddie was a football coach. He studied the game. I learned some things from him. One thing about Eddie, now everybody liked him. All the kids liked him. He was a kids coach, and I really, he was demanding, but I really enjoyed being connected with him.
Now, you started in Kirbyville in 1970, which made me wonder, did you coach Bubba Bean?
I did. No, I'm lying to you. I was on the staff. I don't know if anybody coached Bubba Bean, but he was a tremendous athlete. Last time I saw him was at the sale up there at Kirbyville, and when I went up there one Saturday to see what the prices were, and here's a guy that started 4 years at A&M, played 6 years in NFL with the Atlanta Falcons, and just a naturally strong kid. He played every sport, basketball, ran track. I think he played a little tennis then, but Bubba Bean, Ernest Bean, was just a natural athlete because he never went through an all-season program, and he bench pressed over 300. I saw him do it, So, but he was just a natural athlete and a great guy. He was a good kid, yeah.
And keeping with the coach's theme, the story you told in the book about how Rick Butler became a Mustang. Tell us that one. That's a pretty good story.
Well, I didn't want to let that out to everybody that I went through. And I talked to Rick the other day. He ordered a book, and I went through. We was going to San Antonio and Lukenbach the first time, so we rolled in there. Miss Francis and I sat down there and just to enjoy the atmosphere. And they had a band up there, and there was a guy and his wife was sitting off the side over there. And of course, I've got my West Orange Stark stuff on, and the guy comes up. He says, "You coach at West Orange Stark?" I said, "Yes, sir." He says, you the head coach? And I said, I am. We were coming from San Angelo, Texas, is what we were doing, and at the clinic in the summertime. And he told us that he went down to San Marcos or New Braunfels in that area and had a brother-in-law that had a job for him. But it was he was a year early. He'd already quit his job at Burke Burnett area up in North Texas. So he said he was looking for a job. So I made a couple of calls here in the area, Jasper and Little Cypress, and they went and looked at Jasper, and she didn't want to go to live in Jasper. Well, it happened that I had an opening immediately that just for coaching school. So I hired him. I needed a line coach. I need a receiver coach, and he was a line coach, so I hired him and made him the tight end coach. So that's a great story. He's been with us for 2 years, and he's a runner-up championship and won a championship, and he said he shows his ring off all the time up there. So it was a great thrill, and he was a great guy.
Good story. Mm-hmm. When you went to Stark, you were the head baseball coach there, and then, of course, the merger with West Orange. And Ronnie Anderson, of course, was coaching the Chiefs, but you wanted that job at West Orange Stark as the head baseball coach. Well,
naturally, and Ronnie come to me 2 or 3 times and wanted me to assist him. We had played Ronnie 4 or 5 times. He'd only beaten us 1 time. We was at Stark High School, and I think I got ejected from the game at West Orange in a 5-4 game. But anyway, I didn't want to be assistant. I didn't want to step back. I wanted to be the head coach. So Steve McCarty kept me on as a linebacker coach and equipment manager, and I'll ever be grateful. I just went up to 2 years ago to Steve's Alto to his 80th birthday, and I'm fixing to send him a book too because he's mentioned in the book. And of course, that's how I got on it in the school district at Stark High School, and then he kept me on, and of course the story was I've been there since '77.
Was it hard for you and Ronnie to be in the same field house after that had happened?
No, we talked football all the time.
Yeah.
I mean baseball all the time. He and I had PE together. I tell everybody we talked PE together, but that's a lie. We sponsored it together. We sat over and talked football, and we sponsored PE. But for 9 years, he and I were together. So,
right.
And he kept trying to talk me into coming to coach baseball, and I said no. Probably one of the best things that ever happened to me is Steve McCarty making me a straight football coach, and I got the name. I got to learn the sport in depth. I wanted to play football, college football. I tore my knee up when I went to McNeese on a baseball scholarship, but I went out for football in the fall. On the goal line, I tore my knee up, so it was time for me to go straight baseball then. So,
well, I that's the first thing I thought about was, how could history have been changed if you had gotten the head baseball job and, had success in baseball, and where would your priorities have gone to?
Well, there's no telling where I'd be, but I love coaching the game of baseball. I love football, love coaching that, but I love coaching the game of baseball. And then, of course, I'm in the process of doing the Little League thing again with 3 of my grandsons that are all in baseball. So I like coaching baseball.
When you finally did start coaching, I believe in '95, when you did get the head coach, were you able to fill that hole of being a head baseball coach?
Yes, I did, because I got a chance to coach my sons.
Right.
I had all my boys. My stepson Chad was my center fielder as a freshman, and Michael was starting third baseman, catcher, something. But I had gotten to coach my oldest son Marcus that first year, and Brenham beat us in Houston, and he was my starting shortstop and all-state player. So I got to coach my boys, and I really enjoyed that. Yeah. Really did.
Coach, you talk about defense and discipline, and I'm curious about the discipline side of it. Where was that? Did that come from your family background, or just you? I mean, tell us about that.
That came from my background and my family teaching and stuff, but it had to do primarily with the coaches that I had played for, both in high school and college. And that old discipline comes in 2 forms. You can self-discipline and team discipline. So. Those kids, and a lot of them are grown men today, and come back and tell me that the things that they learned from me they use daily and everything. But people don't understand that that's a foundation that you've got to have, and that can be in the workforce, and that can be any walk of life, any part of life. But team discipline, they had to buy into what we were selling. And of course, that self-discipline, they had to be able to conduct themselves and act right, and learn how things were done, and do it the right way to become productive citizens of society. And I've run into a bunch of them in the last week that come bought books that are doing that very thing.
And the other side of that, defense, the 50 defense. I mean, why did that work so well at West Orange Stark? Why was it the defense you chose?
That was the first defense that I really got connected with at Stark High School. Now, I was secondary coach, but the front, we didn't play that at Kirbyville. We played a different front, and it was 27. And when you play a 27 defense, that's how many points you're going to give up every game. But the thing about the 50 defense is I learned that, studied it in depth. Number one, wanted to be strong off tackle. I studied it every position. And the thing about the 50 defense, when I speak at clinics, I tell them, hey, you don't necessarily win with alignment. You win with people. But it's a 50 defense we taught, and when we go in at halftime, if something was broke, we could fix it out of the 50 defense. And it was balanced, it's not like the 40 defense that some teams are running now, because it's not as sound in the middle of the field. Although 80% of your football plays occur on hash marks. But it's not as sound in the middle of the field, because you got some weak areas that you got in the weak side of the 40 defense. But the 50 is pretty balanced, and you can adjust it to most anything. And I've had people ask me, said, what do you do if they tighten it down? I said, we tighten it down. What do you do if you spread it? If they spread it? I said, we spread it. Same terminology. We just have to learn to play in space when they have a spread offense. So,
is in the what I always called it was a gang mentality of tackling, because when you had a Mustang playing a tackle, you always saw 6, 7, maybe 8, 9 guys in there. And a coach, one of your assistant coaches, had told me one time that when y'all watch film, you better be on that screen when that tackle is made. Is it as simple as that?
That's exactly correct. Now, you're either making a tackle, you're assisting the tackle, or you're in a hurry to get there to help on the tackle. Now, we don't want anybody standing around watching the game. You can stand around on the sideline with me and watch the game. But pursuit drill is something that and we've used 2 or 3 of them over the years. I got one from LSU that I don't like this word, but we tweaked for West Orange Stark, and we would run it prior to every defensive workout that I was at West Orange Stark. We started every defensive workout with the pursuit drill. The plan was to run one to the right and run one to the left, but if we caught anybody dragging around, we might take us 6 to get 2 good ones, and they knew that. So they were busting their tail to get to get on their angles and stuff. And we followed our rules, don't get behind the football, and don't trail the same color jersey. Take an angle to get in front of the football, and that has been the key. Other than people, personnel, that's been the key to our success on defense over the years, is gang tackling.
And of course, quote-unquote consistency was such a part of it, because I could go to your practice and I knew exactly what you were doing as soon as I drove in the parking lot, from being there the day before or 2 days before.
Well, I was in a hospital in '98 with gallbladder surgery for a night, and they told me that Gay Ron Allen went to University of Oklahoma. When you talk about doing things, I was in a hospital on a Monday night. Well, the coaches could go sit down, The players could run the practice, because we done the same thing on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. The only difference in them might be the offense that we were facing that particular week, to where we developed a script, run plays against our defense. We take the top 4 rushing plays that we thought that they had, and the top 2 passing plays, and wear them out in them first 2 days. So, and Wednesday, we'd go over some trick plays, and then we had our game plan together. If we didn't have that all finalized by Wednesday in our game plan, I would throw that part of the game plan game plan out to where that we could be just as natural on Friday night as running the football, our reads and keys, and getting to the football. I didn't want them to have to stop and think about what they had to do.
And on Thursdays, you did something that nobody else did. You still practice in full pads.
Yeah. We play in full pads. We practice in full pads. And how that came about, when Dan was head coach way back when, we went out in shoulder pads and shorts. We got a knee injury from a young man that missed a state championship game, and that made me sick. And we played the backup defensive end and defensive player, and we won the game. But this kid misses playing in a state championship game. He didn't have to have a surgery, but I was sick. Now, whether we'd had pads on or not, I don't know if that have saved it, but he would have probably had his knee braces on, which we made him wear in practice. And the kids was talking about that the other night. Didn't necessarily make them wear them in the game because they was going full speed, in the game. And the chance of being injured was remote when you go in full speed. But in practice, they may be standing around or something and have somebody knocked into them, and we lose a player. As you know, we didn't have about 28 to 32 on the varsity. So, and I know that hurt us in the playoffs sometimes if we got injuries in the playoffs. So we had to keep them as healthy as we possibly could.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about the 2 state championship runs. Looking at this, and I didn't really think about it till looking at your book, but in the 80s, you had 85, you almost made it. Back-to-back, 86, 87, and then almost did it again in 88. Your takeover, Coach, 14, you almost make it. 15, 16, back-to-back, almost making it in 17. Similarities with those 2 runs?
Yes, I think so, and I really think this, of course, you have different athletes on those teams and everything. Going back to the 80s, I really believe that we would have won that 3rd state championship, but the community started talking about us winning the 3rd before we even played it, And I think that kind of set in with some of the kids, and we did not play, and not take anything away from Parrish. Parrish was pretty good, I think if we'd have played 10 times, it'd have been pretty even, them 5 and us 5. But I don't think that we went into that game with the fire that we did the other 2, And of course, we as a coaching staff, I think we did some things, and I alluded to it in the book. I think we did some things on the night before that we hadn't done in the past, and meaning that we had a movie for them, but we didn't make them all stay in there and watch the movie. And so I think if we'd have done things just like we had done before, that we could have won that 3rd one in a row. And let's go back to that. Let's go back to in '85 when we played Yates. Yates has 13 of those kids on that football team go to major college football that year. So we played them pretty good. We didn't have a kicker. We missed 3 field goals early, if you remember. Right. But we played lights out, played hard, and probably if we'd have played them 10 times, they'd have probably beat us 9 because they were talented. That was a great bunch of athletes there.
I'm gonna bring back 85 here in a little bit, but now moving to 14, 15, 16, 17. 14, of course, I've always wanted to talk to you about that, although I'm sure you don't want to talk about it. But, to have an 18-point lead against Gilmer, which is something I'm sure that's never happened at West Orange Stark. Never give up an 18-point lead. That's exactly right. So where did you see, tell us about the second half of that ballgame.
That sticks in my craw right there, that game, because we returned just before half, the big turning momentum swing. Deontay returned an attempted field goal, the distance, and the official from the far side, the deep official from the far side on their staff, threw the flag over 2 people, 2 officials, and that ball carrier come by me, and Deontay come by me, and I knew he was going to score. But I told a guy on the sideline that I thought this venue was too tough for them. I said, there's no way to block in the back. Well, I get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I look at that film, and I can't see it. And the young man it was called on, I haven't seen him since that game, since that day, and I know he feels like he lost the state championship for us, but that cost us. Well, we come out though, and that was another situation, second half, to where we was having a defensive end. Trey Baldwin had to go both ways, tailback and defensive end. Well, we thought they had a history of onside kicking, and we thought that they might, and probably hindsight, that was a mistake. We had a hands team on the field. They kicked it deep and trapped us down around the 5, and of course they caused a fumble and scored quickly right after the half. And that cost us. And Trey, in defense of him, he gave everything for the Mustang, but he ran out of gas, going both ways. And we didn't have a replacement. And that goes back to, the fact I bet we didn't have but really 29 varsity players suited out that particular day. But that sticks in my craw. And I called the head official in Houston and told him that his Houston team took the state championship away from us. I felt like that. And he said, Cornel, he says, I've already had 6-8 calls. I called him at 7 o'clock in the morning. I've already had 6-8 calls about that game this morning. So people saw what I saw, and we never saw a penalty. We never found a penalty to blocking in the back, and of course we never would block behind the ball in a situation like that or attempt to. And but that's a big thorn in my side over the years. Yeah. So.
But unlike in '88, where you thought you were above and were going to win it easy, that team was able to battle back and come back and win.
Had bunch right there. Had some players. Had a tailback named Cornbread Henderson, and they were athletic and they won the game, and they deserved to win the game. We had 4 turnovers in the game,
right.
And their longest drive that day was a block punt, 40 yards. So everything was. They got a bunch of gifts handed to them,
right.
But they were a good football team.
But your team, like I said, instead of falling back on that,
yeah.
They used it as fuel for the next year.
Yeah.
To win the next 2, and you had pretty 2 special teams those next 2 years.
Well, we come back to next year. We got 1 returning starter on offense, and then we're picked to win the state championship. So I'm thinking we might ought to get some people and surround Jack with some personnel and stuff. So, and of course, Jack Dallas was our quarterback, and that was a story in itself. And
right.
But we had a good JV, had good talent coming, and we had them for 2 years. Had them, most of them, back the next year. In 16 was undefeated. So we had some players, and of course we went and performed. And who knows? I hated that it happened against Gilmer in the state championship, but a loss is not always bad. That helped fuel us for years and stuff as we went on. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then after the back-to-back, you go in and you play Pleasant Grove, who, by the way, said they were a slot T team. They were not a slot
wing T team.
Wing T team.
Wing team, which they being a wing T team, some of the philosophy was the same as a slot T, although they would throw the ball a little more. But we had trouble running the football. They had a 290-pound nose guard and 2 300-pound tackles, so we couldn't move them, and we had to throw the ball to win. So that was another football team that and the only slot T, wing T team that we had lost to in 45 attempts. We won 44 games versus slot T teams. In fact, I was with the staff yesterday talking about the slot T, and they want to know what I knew about it. And so I spilled my guts yesterday with them and had lunch with them. But anyway, that was the one slot T, wing T team that we had lost to. And I can say this now, that they were better than we were.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, that's actually a question that I had. Did you ever lose to a slot T team? Because I really didn't consider them a true,
closest thing to it. So we were 44-1 over about probably about a 6-8 year period. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So much success for the Mustangs.
Yeah.
Against the slot T.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the 2000 team, because they kind of get lost in the shuffle with the 4 years and the 4 years, of going back to back.
Yeah.
and an interesting team. Your thoughts about that 2000 team?
I'll tell you what, that secondary. Now we had 3 seniors back there, and they all got to play. They all come back together, and was in the secondary at Tulsa University. Got to play. Good football team. We lost our nose guard again to an ankle injury, and we was playing a backup nose guard, a young man we put in there. But that 2000 team really was fun to coach, So we had some dang good players on that team, and Paul Thomas was still with us. We had a couple of little undersized tackles on there, but that was truly an effort team that loved to play, and they were fun to coach, and we had some those guys. I hear from them from time to time, and most of them have great jobs and families and productive citizens, and I hope I hear for some of them this weekend, But that 2000 team was really a good football team. Feathers was our quarterback. He was our quarterback, and then it's another time that we went in and he didn't have a real good game. Threw 4 interceptions that night. That day, they did all our scoring in the first half. If you remember, in the second half, we blocked a punt. I think we blocked 2 punts, and Michael Ledet had blocked a punt, and we scored. And they didn't score but one more time in the second half. So, but we got started a little late. I talk about this in the book. We got started going in the game a little bit late, but I think a lot of it had to do with the venue that we were playing in. We go and play in the Dallas Cowboys and dress in their dressing room, and we're in awe. We had asked, and every time, like first time we went to the Astrodome, we asked, could we have 30 minutes just to show our kids around, and we asked about could we practice in AT&T, and they wouldn't let us, so we had stopped at Duncanville and practiced on their turf before we went in. Well, the kids went in, I think the first half, we were standing around in awe because of the facility, the venue that we were in, and we were still doing it at most of the half. And after we got our feet on the ground, we started playing Mustang football. But this is always, and I said this in the book, I really believe that we should have gotten them in down here in the Dome simply because they had played their first 5 games there. That was a home game for them, and they had played all their playoff games in AT&T Stadium. And here we come into play, so we was behind the 8 ball to start with in that respect as far as the mental part of the game.
Yeah.
But we matched up with them pretty good.
Of course, Jermaine Hope was always one of my favorite players of the Mustangs, and that play against Cal Allen I'll never forget.
Well, I call him Muscle. I've always called him Muscle. He works in the prison system in Brownsville, in East Texas. Can't think of the name of it. Yeah, but I've heard from him a couple of times. I always called him Muscle. And we went into halftime in that game, and we had been running the split back veer, and they asked me, said, "What do you think we need to do?" I said, "Spread the field." I said, "They play against tight formations down there. They don't have the team speed that we have. Spread the field." So the fourth quarter, we decided we're going to spread the field, and we're driving down there, and we throw the little hitch route late in the game to Jermaine out there, and he scores. Of course, I didn't see it. My youngest son was standing on the bench looking up, and he jumped on my back, and I didn't. And a bunch of people in between us. We scored. And so, but that was a tremendous thrill right there because Paul Thomas had not the tailbacks, their best tailback. We put him out, and they changed quarterbacks. The quarterback got hurt, and I believe we cracked this young man's ribs. And had we not put him out of the game, I don't know if we'd have won the thing or not. But it was a tremendous contest. They threw the ball 3 times the whole game, and we knew they wasn't going to throw the ball. We was loaded up at the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Turquoise Riggs had 2 interceptions, caught more passes than they did, So that was a tremendous game in the Dome that day. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then the state championship game, I thought I remember because Feathers was having a tough time throwing the ball. I think he kept throwing it high, and they were talking about how big the crown was in that stadium.
Yes.
And he was having a hard time getting his adjustments.
Had a lot to do with it. Defense of him, the crown there, and he was throwing the ball high. And that's exactly why we wanted to go in there. We knew that. We wanted to go in and practice the day before, to get our quarterbacks used to it, So, but anyway, Ennis ends up being a state champion, and a bunch of those players go on and play college ball.
Yeah. Had some great players on that team. So, leading to the question of what was the best team? Is there any question it's 16, or do you question?
I've been asked that by many people.
Sure.
Okay, personnel wise, but overall results, 16 is the best team. Okay. Best team, but 85 team was as good as they were. The results were the same, but the 85 team, and then I could go back in the 97 team. Lamarck beat us in 97. 2005, we got beat by the Wimberley. Those teams went on and won a state championship. Those are two teams that I always felt were talented as anybody that we've ever had. Should have made it to the state championship, but we didn't. Turnovers got us in both those games. But I have to say, result-wise, 16 had to be the best team that we've ever had.
Yeah, 811 points to 69. That's pretty.
That's unbelievable.
Pretty impressive, right there, to say the least. So
yeah.
I kind of thought you would say the 16 team, but I specifically asked that question because I knew how special the 85 team was, even though they didn't make it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And in that one year, we didn't give up but 69 points on defense, so that was pretty good.
Yeah,
that wasn't bad. Yeah. So.
Yeah. You mentioned the 05 team against Wimberley, and that's when you got into 3A, and we're in 3A for 10 years. And, of course, everybody thought when West Orange struck with the 10A, it was just going to be a total domination in the 90s there. Why do you think you never had the success that maybe you thought you would have in 3A?
Well, even though when they changed it and we went to 4A Division II, we were still 3A numbers,
Right.
Still 3A. It was just a number, So there's a lot of good football teams in 3A.
Right.
I'm telling you. And they practice and play the game too, and got players. So that didn't really change anything because we faced some talented people on that trail right there, and of course Wimberley and some of them teams that we played on that in that playoff run. So no, it was just 3A was just a number, So that's all it was. Yeah.
After the 2000 team went to state, you left and went to Palestine. You didn't talk a whole lot about that in the book. I was hoping maybe you'd talk about, what led to that and why Palestine.
Well, no, I didn't. I couldn't talk about that because I wasn't here as far as Mustang football was concerned.
I'm talking about you personally.
Yeah, but me.
Yeah.
I didn't have a great need to be a head coach. At that particular time, I seen some things happen in the school district with the administration, and I really thought that was going to hurt us. And I applied for some jobs, Mike Pierce, my defensive coordinator, just retired from Taylor, and Taylor was a job that I applied for that had been winning, and I got a letter saying I was 40th on the list. Well, I didn't have to send that letter, And I applied for Ballinger and places all over, but I did hear from Palestine, and I didn't have a great need to be a head coach, but I thought it was an opportunity for me. I felt like that if I ever was going to be a head coach down the road, and maybe even the head coach at West Orange Stark, but that really didn't sink in. I thought Dan and I would leave together eventually.
Right.
But I went and tried that and got into a situation to where we weren't accepted. I don't think that we were accepted in Palestine. If you're not wasn't raised in Palestine, I think that the old boy just left Lumberton, went in there. I'm going to call him. He may have a tough time, but there's some athletes there.
Right.
There's some athletes, but they did have a walkout in '96 there, with the players and stuff. So we had a hard time bringing our program. I think if we'd have stayed there for a long time, and then we had a great tailback there, a kid named Clerkley, kid named Clerkley, and he was better than. Excuse me, just a second. Can't even think of the tailback I had. He was
I'm not gonna say Adrian Peterson.
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
But Adrian and I had a great relationship. When I came there, his mother was Olympic hurdler. She was Olympic trial hurdler. Went to the Olympic trials as a hurdler. Good-looking young lady. He had gotten hurt as a freshman at Westwood. He transferred into our place because I came there. And Jeff Harrell is the guy that developed him. But with my year there, I was going to. My daddy had some health problems, and I felt like I needed to get back this way, and I was going to retire. Didn't feel like that myself and my staff was accepted there. So Jeff Harrell took over the program, developed Adrian Peterson in track. He developed him in track, and I went on to Huntsville. And I'd already been to Red River Boulevard in Austin, Texas, was going to retire at 30-something years. And then Dan called me. I was fixing to leave Huntsville. He said, "No, I got to get y'all back." Foreman had already resigned, so we didn't have 2 great years at Huntsville there. We were down, although we played great defense there. My defensive, my middle linebacker there was an MVP 2 years in a row. John Solik there at Huntsville. So. I had 4 or 5 guys. My wife was talking about the other night. We went there, and there was 4 or 5 guys that went into coaching, and the parents claimed just because me and Mark and I came there to Huntsville, Texas. But anyway, the story is I came back to West Orange Stark, and I stayed.
Did you and Dan pick up where you left off? Was
just automatically just about picked up where we left off, moved me back in, and picked up where we left off, and still had the same relationship we always had. And when Dan Ray went, other than me so-called tweaking some things, that I felt like that make the program better,
right.
I didn't change anything. We kept right on, and that was I'll go back to the 2001 when I left. They changed defenses. When I retired into here with the present Mustangs, they changed defenses and some of the things that goes on in the program, and it hadn't been successful for them,
Yeah.
And people have always asked me, what about the success of West Orange Stark football? Why have y'all been so successful for so long? And I said, it is a family affair. We've coached daddies, brothers, cousins, uncles, grandpas, yeah. It is a family affair, and we've kept the program just like we've always had it. And the kids know before they come into the field house exactly what's going on, what's happening, and that's why I've been hurt over these last 2 seasons. The way things have happened.
We'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But the relationship with you and Hooks would you say it was a good cop, bad cop type?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was
I know who you were.
I was always a bad guy, and Danny Ray was loving on him and patting on him and stuff. But I had a rule. That even as being the bad cop, do not ever let. And I told my defensive staff, don't you ever let a player leave that field house after practice without you putting his arm around him, myself included. If you got on him pretty hard during the course of the day, or he didn't have a good practice, and we run our practice just like games, speed factor of it, and everything. Don't you ever let one leave that field house. And I think the whole thing with the program, people ask me that also about, why successful so long. You sell the program to the kids, and they go out in the community and witness it for you. Because, of course, I've had a lot of parents come up there, and have been unhappy about some things that happened, it may have happened during the program. And I always tell every one of my administrators and the people I've worked for and the families and stuff, that every decision that I've ever made at West Orange Star was for the athlete and the program in mind first, what comes first. So that's the source of all my reasoning behind.
Yeah.
I made a lot of decisions that I made over the years.
But I think the 1-2 punch combination with you and Hooks. I think when you were there, maybe the 1-2 with Eddie, y'all understood each other,
Yes.
and knew what each other was going to do. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is I have seen, just in all the sports I've covered over the years, when you have that good head coach and first assistant relationship, I mean, you see the success that comes out of that.
Well,
it's a big part of it.
We've been together so long. Pierce, Eddie, and all have been together so long that we would think alike. We knew what each other was thinking before it happened. And of course, I had a headset on with Eddie up there calling plays, and of course, I told Eddie that if I didn't like to play, or I'm making a suggestion, if I didn't like to play that he ran, and those things happen as a head coach. I reserve the right to do that,
Sure.
But no, as far as our relationship, Eddie Dyer run the offense, and what people don't understand is he's been involved in the top 5 offenses ever at West Orange Star.
Right.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 as a offensive coordinator, and number 3 as offensive line coach. Pierce and I standing there on the sideline. He done his student teaching under me in the 90s. We think alike, Whenever it come time to make a call, I'd look at him. I said, "Do you want to rush or defend?" Well, I didn't. He always wanted to rush. He wanted that heat. So, no, that we was on the same page mentally all the time, And we would go in on Sundays to finalize our game plan at West Orange Star defensively, and then I'd go across the room and find out what the offensive game plan was like, because change of defense. But that's the only thing that changed, is because we'd face different offenses. But our game plan on Sunday afternoon didn't change very much over the years from game 1 to game 10 or 16 or, didn't change very much, except for the offenses that we were facing,
Dan was known as fire you Friday night and hire you back on Sunday.
Those things happen, those things happen, so. But that was behind closed doors
Just
type deal. That's part of that goes with the territory, and I knew that, so. And we'd be there on Sundays a lot of time, and I'd buy pizza for the coaches at lunch and stuff, and we'd have people bring us lunch up there sometime and feed the coaches, and we'd be there. And Coach Hooks, I got to tell this, after we ate, he would say, "Well, y'all get it together. I'll see y'all in the morning," and we'd be there a couple hours later, But no, that thing about Danny Ray, he allowed us to coach,
right?
And I've always appreciated that. And he gave me an opportunity back in '81 to be the defensive coordinator. That's what I wanted to be. And when he told me that, he said, "I also want you to be my first assistant." So I wasn't looking for that, but and that's what I served under him all those years. So,
looking when you took over 2011 and into 21, set a lot of records, obviously, both on offense and defensive side of the ball. But I think the one that really gets me, besides the 2 championships, is 10 of 11 years making it to the 4th round. I don't know the Barbays, the Walkoviaks, the whoever. I don't know that anybody else can say that.
No,
or in our area.
Nobody else can say that. And that's tremendous credit to the coaching staff and the players at West Orange Stark over the years. And had we not had that COVID year and lost those 8 players right, who were exposed to COVID, because they would always get together on a Thursday night and eat together, and I warned them, please don't do that, and end up going and doing it at a school board member's house after I had told them, please don't do that. We lost those 8 players. And China Spring beat us.
Yeah.
I believe we'd have won that game had we had those people, and we'd have got back to the 4th round that year.
Right.
And then when China Spring beat us our last game in the 4th round, I believe we'd have made it to the state championship had we not lost Eliza Gales, because at the end of the 3rd quarter, it was 17-14.
Right.
We were still very much in the game, So those are things that happened to us that set us back, and both of them was against China Spring, and I would love to have one more shot at them, So, but
did you know after that last game against China Spring? Did you know that was it?
Yes,
then?
I knew it then.
Yeah,
I knew it then, because there's some things that happened in the program around the program and administrate that I knew that it was time for me to go spend time with my wife, because she had been right there with me all these years. Time for me to go be grandpa. And I hadn't run out of gas. I thought I could probably at one time go about 4 more years. I'd planned on going 55 years, But you can't put a number on it,
Yeah.
What an odd number, 51. That's an odd number. I don't like odd numbers, although that's what I always chose when we did the zip code flipping for playoff sites and stuff,
Right.
But no, when that game was over, my boy started crying. My oldest one knew it because he seen me stop, and I just looked around at the stadium because I knew that'd be the last time that I would be there on the floor of a stadium,
Yeah.
So he knew that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, talking about the 2 different championship runs of 4 years, seemed like right after the 80s. I mean, you couldn't be any higher. Everything's going great. You got it rolling. And then you get into, 89, 90, maybe don't make the playoffs, and then all of a sudden people start poking holes at you.
Yes.
Well, then you had that run, 14, 15, 16, 17. Then 18, 19 didn't quite reach that pinnacle. People start poking holes at you. Am I right about that?
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. People started shooting at us. They felt like that maybe I might have been outdated and stuff. There were some negative things that I'd heard toward the program, and so, yeah, people started shooting at us then, and we hadn't done anything then that we hadn't done in the past and everything. So, of course, our coaching staff continued to coach as we always had. Our players that we had were playing the best of their ability. We had some in-program things that happened that were negative, but no, we still coached them and taught them and treated them just as we always did, So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you talked a lot about different things, and it seemed like you really wanted to clear the air, maybe get it off your chest. Did you feel like that you did that in the book?
I do. I'm married good now, I'm telling you now. And my little wife corrected a bunch of things because I was pretty blatant with some things that I said in the book, in my yellow pads and stuff. But she critiqued them, and then kind of dressed them up for me and everything. So overall, as the book is now, I think I cleared the air somewhat in some things that went on without mentioning names and stuff, So.
But it's just terrible that you still have those feelings after all the success. But can you say the success outweighed the issues?
Yes, I can say that.
Yeah,
I can say that. I look back on that, and success did. But we had too many people late was trying to get involved after the championship run, and they was trying to get involved into the direction of the program, and they weren't even involved when we started building that thing. Had no idea what it took to build what we had done. And so that was some of the reason that I started looking toward retirement. So anyway, I feel good about what we've done. I feel good about my book. I feel good about the way we handled things as they went on during the course of the year. So the only thing I don't feel good about is I didn't stay long enough with my staff stay long enough with the Eddies and the Dyers and Terry Joes if they wanted to retire from West Orange stock.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the now that you've seen what's happened the last 2 years, 5 and 6. I know you want to say you reap what you sow, but at the same time, does it pain you to see the program have the two last years they've had?
It hurts me for the kids.
Yeah.
Being the winningest program in the state of Texas, we won't be able to say that if this continues. To get back what we had is going to be very difficult and take a very special person to come in and do that, I don't know if it's there. But I really feel bad about for the kids. And the kids know I still love them because I had 2 of them off of last year's team come Sunday night in the rain and buy books from me, So, and we sat and talked, And I'm still in touch with a couple of them that went to college, that stay in touch with them. But it pains me to see that the kids that had grew up watching the program and wanted to be little Mustangs that wanted to be big Mustangs, and they're wanting to come and be part of that as a high school player didn't get there in time, So there's no, in my opinion, there's no way that West Orange Star should be 5 and 6. I just think I said that in the book. It's unacceptable, And I really think that if we'd have still been there, we'd have made it to the 4th round both those years. And I'm sorry, but that's just my feeling. Yeah.
Current administration gone, new administration comes in and says, Coach T, would you come back and fix it?
Coach T's done. You stick a fork in me. You stick a fork in me. I'm done. I'm where I need to be, but there's somebody out there that can come in and start and help revive it if that's possible at all. So no, I've had a bunch of people ask me that. And no, I'm through coaching. I'm a better coach now than I ever was. So
have you had offers to be DC somewhere?
No, I had an offer to be a head coach.
Okay.
Jefferson, Texas called me.
Okay.
And wanted me to come in there and revive our program. He said, Coach, I know what's happening at West Orange Stark. I know your staff is gone. He said, would you consider coming to talk to me? And I'm going to stop in next time I go through there to go to Little Rock and see him. Would you consider coming to talk to me about head coach here for a couple of years? I said, here's what you need to understand. And they've been successful in the respect of their district, non-district. He said, we're an underachieving football team. We need somebody like you to come in and kick things around, but they don't understand what it takes, and I'm not a homeboy from Jefferson, and it might be like some of the things that I would bring in there with the old school stuff that may not be accepted like it was at Palestine, so they may not get on the bandwagon. It'll take longer than 2 years, and, of course, they asked me about did I have somebody that had played for me that might be coaching. And, of course, I did suggest 2 people, and one young man named Ty Taylor that played for me at Huntsville is the head coach, got the job.
Okay.
And they're very thrilled with him up to this point,
Good.
So he'll do a good job because I got to stop in there and see him, you know. So I'm looking forward to him being successful there.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you talked a little bit about memorabilia, and of course I've seen your room a couple of times. But I wanted to ask about the socks. So you've told the story on KOGT before about new pair of socks, but did you keep all those socks that you've worn over the years?
Till they wore out with holes in them. I put a pair of socks on, a clean pair of socks every morning. In fact, the pair I'm wearing right now has got a C on it, and I don't remember who that was for. But anyway, I got yesterday I was wearing LCM socks. I got it in green, LCM. I was wearing them. So, yeah, until they get holes in them, and my wife uses them as dust rags or something of that nature, but I'm still wearing them. I got 2 drawers full of socks, and I pull out a clean pair of socks every morning, and they might have a S on it for Silsby or a L for Liberty or something of that nature on them, yeah. But still got them.
Did you? I'm assuming you saved the state championship socks and put them somewhere.
They're in there. No, they're in there somewhere. But what I did, I am going to make a trip to Gulf Coast Museum and want to know why there isn't more memorabilia in there about West Orange Stark as opposed to Mid-County. So I got a windbreaker, an old cap, and I probably need to change the oil in it before I give it to them, and maybe a copy of my book and a couple of pictures of state championship, and donate some things to them so they can have some of that memorabilia over there.
I think they would love to have it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go over and talk to them about next week. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, besides your rings, what is your most valuable, at least to you, piece of memorabilia you have in your room?
Oh, I think pictures of Gay Ron Allen and Kevin Smith and state championship pictures I got up there. Now, I know you've seen it, and it looks like a chaos up there. But for me to get everything hung up, my wife painted the ceiling of our house. It's just 22 feet tall, okay?
Right.
So I'd have to get her a scissor lift to get up there to put pictures on the walls up there because we've run out of space, and we've got pictures laid out all over the place and memorabilia everywhere that we haven't gotten near all the stuff up there. But
right.
I think one of the things in my memorabilia room that I think is very close to me, that I treasure, is in my 40th year. We had that game against Silsby, and then we invited out a bunch of players, and they all write letters. And I've got a book laying right there with the letters that they wrote. And of course, my wife learned a bunch of things out of those letters that she didn't need to know. But anyway, that they wrote letters and thanking me for for molding them and stuff like that. So that notebook is very special to me. Yeah. So
I got to imagine also the 500th banner you've been carrying around and having your old players signed. How close are you to completing that?
I don't know that I'm even halfway. I may be,
really?
But it's in the book, of course.
Right.
The banner will be there with me Saturday. And, of course, I went to the College World Series last year. One of my coaches, Kurt Reeves, lives up there, and I called him out and got him to sign one of my ex-coaches got him to sign the banner. So we carry it in the truck every time we go through a town. I stop. Ty Taylor, I got to get his name, although he played at Huntsville, but I got him that job. I'm going to let him sign it. But all the coaches and stuff that played that's a big deal, is have him sign that banner. And I carry that thing with me. And how close, I don't know. But I want to have it there Saturday, and I want to hang it up in the house somewhere.
I was going to say the front's pretty covered. You may have to start going to the back.
Well, there's a little space there.
Yeah.
I don't want to cover up the back, but there's still some little space there where they can put it in. But it is covered, yeah.
Well, it's a really beautiful piece of a memorabilia, and of course, just a credit to your coaching career. The coaches that coached under you, and again, the book is outstanding. I recommend it to anybody. Of course, it's been great for me, being that I don't remember as many things as I used to, as many games as I covered.
Yeah.
With you and the West Orange Star Mustangs. Great job of putting all the scores and the records together. Is there a part 2 of this possibly, or no, or just tweak it as you go?
I thought about, we might, as we go, we may tweak this one a little bit, know. But I thought about writing just a pure defensive book, starting out with a position-by-position defensive book. But I don't know. At 2 years, that's a long time right there.
Yeah.
That's a lot of 3:30 in the mornings and 5 and 5:30 get up writing chapters and stuff and critiquing all that went on. But no, I hadn't really thought seriously about it. I'm going to let this see how this happens, and I just want to tell everybody about Saturday from 11 to 2, the signing. Come on out, whether you buy a book or not. Yeah. I just like to see you. And the people that have bought books and stuff, I want to tell them, hey, if you like it, let me know. If you don't, I don't want to hear from you.
Well, on behalf of football fans, Mustang fans, thank you for taking the time, and Francis, of course, for being your editor and putting this thing together. Like I say, you don't have to be a Mustang fan to enjoy it. It's a fantastic book.
I'm waiting for the lady from West Virginia to call me. She used to tune in to y'all after every game on Friday night. She said, Coach, I don't know you. I've never been to Texas, but I had tuned in KOGT, and she says, I just wait around to hear what you're going to say after the game. You keep me laughing. And we got some friends in Tennessee that requested copies and stuff, so I'm waiting for her to call me. If she's still living, I'm waiting for her to call me. And so we got a lot of friends in Arizona that already have requested books and stuff. We'll spend next week sending books out and everything. So, but it's been fun. This was fun.
Yep.
This was a milestone in my life. So, I got to tell this story too before we quit. I've had a couple of girls that I graduated with, or women, their families, and they said, I hear you writing a book last year at a reunion, and I'm going to take it to my reunion in October. So I hear you writing a book. Yes. They look at each other and laugh for about 30 seconds. we went to school with you. They can't believe I wrote a book. So anyway, there's proof right there. So
well, it's called West Orange Stark Football: A Way of Life, History of Mustang Football, 1977 to 2021. And Coach, we appreciate the book, and certainly appreciate you being my first guest on my show here.
I thank you very much for having me, Gary. I thank you for your friendship.
Yes, sir. All right, Coach Cornel Thompson, and again, you've been listening to Behind the Mic.